everything that Donald Trump ever says about tariffs and so many of the things that Trump supporters say about tariffs, they're speaking about tariffs as if they're a good in and of themselves. And I think the obvious question, it seems to me like this is MAGA's minimum wage argument here. This is MAGA's 15 bucks an hour. Okay. Why is, if tariffs are a good in and of themselves, if it's just this is the benefit to American production, and that's how we bring all these jobs back and make our economy stronger, why don't we just have 500% tariffs on every single country? Why not just have explain to me what the limiting principle is here? Because if you're just describing tariffs as a good in and of themselves and they're just inherently beneficial, I'm not understanding why you don't support drastically increased tariffs on everybody.
Dave Smith just asked a great question. If tariffs are good, why not just make them 500%? Why not slam the entire world with tax walls so high they can't even see the American market? If tariffs create prosperity, what's the limiting principle? Fair question. But here's my impression. Libertarians, and I'm not saying this is Dave's full position because I haven't fleshed it out yet, often treat tariffs like a gateway drug to socialism. If you're against taxes, you're supposed to be against tariffs. Even when the math is clear, even when the trade deficit screams abuse, even when the other side has already nationalized your entire industrial base and sold it back to you wrapped in a Chinese Communist Party flag, let's break it down. Trump's entire tariff model was built around a concept that even the most radical anti-statist should respect: proportionality, reciprocity. You tax us, we tax you. You close your markets, we close ours. We don't escalate, we equalize. That's the principle, that's the ceiling. The American consumer is the product, and access to them isn't free anymore. The tariffs weren't some crank economic voodoo dreamed up in a bunker. They were a response to a rigged system. A country like China runs a 67% effective trade barrier on United States goods through tariffs, value-added tax, regulations, and other protectionist schemes. And we're charging them 2.5% in return. That's not free trade, that's being the global welfare office. Trump's model was simple. Take the imbalance, cut it in half, apply that number as the tariff. That's how we got 34% on China. It wasn't arbitrary, it was strategic pressure applied proportionally. So no, we don't need 500% tariffs across the board because the goal isn't autarky or annihilation, it's leverage. You don't vaporize trade, you recalibrate it. The worse the imbalance, the higher the price to get back in. The more fair the partner, the lower the cost. Trump didn't say tariffs were good in and of themselves. He said the trade deficit was a knife in America's gut, and tariffs were how you push back. And here's what I'd really love answered. If you're against tariffs on principle, then what do you do when another country slaps you with double-digit tariffs and regulatory barriers and sells into your market duty-free? What do you propose? Sit politely and call it capitalism? This is the part of the libertarian worldview I can't square. You say tariffs are taxes. Fine. But what do you call it when another country taxes your exports and you do nothing in return? That's not liberty. That's unilateral disarmament. That's economic open borders. It's sovereignty erosion by spreadsheet. Let's take on the top 3 arguments from the Austrian libertarian bench. 1, tariffs are just taxes on consumers. No, they aren't, but I'll play along. And you know what else are taxes on consumers? Every single regulation that drives up the cost of American production while letting foreign producers skate. Environmental compliance, Occupational Safety and Health Administration mandates, unionized minimums. If we're going to force American businesses to jump through flaming hoops while letting Chinese slave labor import goods tariff-free, then yes, tariffs are a price correction. They're a tax, yes, but one that shifts the cost back onto the foreign state gaming the system. If a tariff neutralizes a foreign subsidy or evens the playing field against child labor and state-owned enterprise dumping, then call it what you want. It's not oppression, it's justice. 2, trade is voluntary. Government shouldn't interfere in free exchange. This would be lovely if we were dealing with 200 independent private merchants operating under mutual respect, but we're not. We're dealing with foreign governments, China, India, the European Union, who weaponize trade through centralized policy. They subsidize exports, manipulate currency, and use value-added tax systems to block our goods while dumping theirs. This isn't voluntary trade between equals. It's asymmetric warfare disguised as commerce. Tariffs don't violate voluntary exchange. They restore it. Because voluntary ceases to mean anything when one side is playing Calvin ball with state power and the other's too dogmatic to respond. 3, tariffs create inefficiency and cronyism, and letting every critical supply chain for medicine, semiconductors, steel, and food production relocate to communist China isn't inefficient. What's more cronyous, subsidizing domestic manufacturing with transparent tariffs, or letting global megacorporations offload American jobs to totalitarian regimes while lobbying Washington to keep the ports open. The globalist model is cronyism on steroids. The United States Chamber of Commerce wrote the trade deals that killed Detroit. Tariffs didn't do that. Deregulated corporate extraction did. If tariffs bring some industrial policy back in-house, that's not a bug. It's the last shot at independence. Nobody serious is arguing for 500% tariffs on Luxembourg and Botswana. But are we seriously going to say we can't touch China's 67% if we want to stay pure? That the American worker has to go down with the ideological ship so we can keep saying tariffs are bad? Trump answered this question in the most Trump way possible. Publicly, bluntly, and with a giant chart in the Rose Garden. He made it visual. The imbalance wasn't a stat, it was a threat. And for once, someone responded with a number of their own. So if you're a libertarian and you think tariffs are inherently evil, I get it. But I'm asking, where is the line? What's the strategy for trade leverage without tariffs? Because unless you've got a plan to stop foreign governments from rigging the game while your own citizens absorb the losses, you're not defending liberty. You're defending the system that killed it. This isn't about rejecting Dave's argument. It's about inviting a deeper one. If there's something I'm missing, if there's some better plan to stop a 90% trade imbalance without using tariffs, I'm listening. But until then, the Trump strategy has a built-in limiting principle, the imbalance. That's the whole point. No one's talking about 5,000% tariffs. We're talking about charging a price to countries who've gotten used to looting us for free. If the American consumer is the prize, then the price to access them should be tied to how badly you've abused the relationship. That's not extremism, that's sanity. Leave a comment if you agree, or if you can explain how to balance trade without using the only tool anyone ever flinched at.